Welcome, Linda. Yay, I'm so happy to speak to you today. So Linda is one of our other lovely dedicated owners. And what I really want to do, Linda, is ask you all about, you've got two dogs, but let's start with Mac. So if you just let us know where Mac comes from, and his feeding history, really.
Yeah, no problem. Well, yeah, my dog Mac, he's a Shepsky, so he's cross Husky, cross German Shepherd, so he's got lots of energy. And we're from the Highlands in Scotland, at the north west of Scotland up there. So yeah, Mac came from just a few miles from where we stay in Nairn, and we had him since he was a puppy, and we were just so happy and so excited to get Mac because we wanted to have a dog in our family that we could be really active with, and we really were looking to get a dog with that amount of energy, just to kind of bring that energy into our family, and just we were thinking of doing running and lots of different things, but we weren't quite sure, but we just knew we wanted a dog with lots of energy. But Mac came to us just on a basic, diet, not particularly great diet, just the usual puppy food. I think it was pretty low quality food that he came to us with. But so we decided we wanted to get him onto a good diet at that stage, and I had only been vegan for a couple of years, so I hadn't even thought about Mac being vegan at that stage, or plant-based, sorry, at that stage. So that never came into my mind. But he was about 9 months and we'd had him on a raw diet, so we improved his diet when we got him and transitioned him onto a raw diet. And we were quite happy with that, because at the time we believed, that was the best thing to do. So we were advised by quite a lot of people in our lives, and people we'd met, and we'd asked the vet who we had a good relationship with, and they said, yeah, if you're wanting your dog really healthy and active, then a raw diet is probably the way to go. So that's what we did. And but then he was about 9 months old, I think. It's been such a long journey, I forget the exact time frame.
How old is he? How old is he now? Sorry, Linda.
He's going to be 4 in February.
Oh gosh, it's been a while. Wow. Okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. Yeah, so it's 4 in February, so the time has passed so quickly, but It doesn't feel like that. But at the same time, when I try and remember things, I realize that how long it's been.
No, our time goes too quickly with our dogs, doesn't it?
It really does. It really does. I can't believe he's going to be 4. It's absolutely crazy. But when he was 9 months, I think it was around 9 months anyway, he just stopped eating, Ariel, and I don't know if I've told you the story, but he just stopped eating, just overnight, just stopped eating. And we obviously were worried by that, and you being a vet, you'd be probably really concerned if a dog just stopped eating overnight. And then he started vomiting green bile, and he was just not himself, started losing weight really quickly, and just would only eat like little bits of rice and chicken, and even then he would just vomit it back up. So we went to see a vet, and they said to us that this kind of thing can happen to dogs, and we just had to try and live with it. But we just knew that wasn't right, so we decided to go back and ask if we could get some kind of investigation, and they offered us a wee camera to go down into his tummy and have a wee look there, and found out he had chronic gastroenteritis, and they said it's probably the worst case that they've seen in a puppy so young.
Oh, poor Mac. Wow.
Oh. Yeah.
And what diet did they then recommend he goes on to as a recovery from?
Yeah, it was a really difficult time, Ariel. I felt quite lonely at that point, because I just, when you just sort of just didn't expect. So I felt quite lonely because I didn't know who to turn to, because they just told me he was going to be on lots of medication for the rest of his life, and I just felt something was just saying to me that can't be right. That can't be right for him. I was so sad about it, and my husband was saying, oh, well, that's just life, we've just got to accept that that's the way it's going to be. but I just felt like I needed more answers. I just felt, no, we can't just fill him with steroids every day for the rest of his life, because the vet did say he's going to need these steroids probably forever. So we did a lot of trial medications, and it turned out we tried so many different things, but at the end of the day, the only thing that worked to try and curb the vomiting and the not eating was a high dose of steroids. So but then
and he was still a puppy. Oh gosh, it must have been absolutely to know he was taking. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really hard, Ariel, because the vet said, and you know yourself as humans, there's side effects.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We had to weigh that up. So it was a really hard time, and we asked if we could see a specialist, because we were just really just trying to find anything we could just try and improve things for him, because his coat started shedding and he lost his shine. He was quite tired all the time, so he wasn't at his best, point then, but at least he was eating, but even then we'd have to really coax him to eat. So it just wasn't normal. There was nothing normal about it. And then we went to a specialist, and I remember I'd been vegan for a few years by that point, and I'd been looking at research into dogs, reducing inflammation, because yourself, Ariel, that's basically what the condition is, isn't it? It's just
absolutely
high levels of inflammation. And what was really funny was the vet did keep saying it's probably a protein that's just making his body react like this. It could be chicken, it could be this, it could be that.
Yeah, that's the first bit of correct information you definitely got there. Absolutely.
Yeah, so they tried him on different diets as well. The hydrolysed diets where they break the proteins down. We tried absolutely everything, and they knew that I was going to keep going and keep going. So they kept trying to keep giving me more answers. And we tried absolutely everything. We went to a specialist, and when I mentioned the plant-based diet to the specialist, he did laugh at me. And I thought to myself, okay, that wasn't the reaction I was expecting. No. I did come away a bit discouraged at that point. And they wanted to do more diet analysis on him. And I said, we've done that already so many times, and nothing is coming up as a pattern in his diet. And that's every time we would introduce something, there just seemed to be no pattern to it. It was just really bizarre. So the conclusion was it was something in his environment that was maybe triggering it, but there was never any real answers given to me. But the specialist did say we can refer you to a nutritionist, but she doesn't agree with plant-based diets, so we don't know if it's going to cause her any harm. And I said, well, I don't want to go with her, because if she doesn't really know what she's talking about, then I don't really want to go down that route.
Yes,
so I just turned them down, and I just said I just don't want to go down that route. So it was quite a lonely time, I just felt like, what do I do now?
And well done you with persevering, just knowing deep down that even the specialists who were just, well done, Linda. My goodness, that takes so much courage to just stick with your convictions and find the right route. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I remember it so clearly, Ariel, that we were on holiday, and it was we were going bikejoring, so we were going for a usual active kind of holiday. We were going to do some running, hill walking, some bikejoring, and I remember we were in our cottage, and I had been preparing for this. So what I try and do before we go on a holiday is I try and get him fattened up. So I'd be trying to get him as much feed as I could, to try and get some beef in his bones so that he would have energy to do it. And I remember being in the cottage just thinking, this is really sad, that we're having to do this. And I just remember stumbling across your website, Ariel, and that's when we found you, and then we haven't looked back since.
And I had no idea. Your story is, it's making me cry, because it's just, you are exactly the sort of owner that I would have reached out for with my site. Oh, that's wonderful. So then he was it the dry food that you tried first, and what was the response you got with the dry plant-based food?
That's right. I think it was the solo vegetable. that we tried. I think that was what.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Back then, when you first started, I think it was just a pack that you could order to start with, and then you tried little bits. It was a starter pack, I think.
Yes, yes, which I still have, the little sample pack. That's right. Yes.
Yeah. So we tried them, and he liked it. But that's the way Mac is. He'll eat something, and then he'll go a bit strange with it. But with the solo vegetal, we started giving to him as treats, and then we thought we likes it.
Oh.
So we decided to get some of that, and just with your advice, just slowly do that. And we tried some of the meals as well, the homemade meals as well. But his relationship with food was really poor at that point, so it's very hard for him to get him interested in food again. So
yeah, I think when food makes you so ill, it must be the same in humans with IBS and with severe ulcerative colitis, is you know that what you're taking in is going to cause you pain. So your relationship with food must change completely. And poor Mac, I can imagine that must have been his mindset, is I'm going to eat this because I have to. It's a natural instinctive thing to eat. But he knows that in a few hours, what he was eating would have made him sore. So when did you notice the changes then in his relationship with food and in his nature?
Well, I think it's the same with humans. I think it does take time for us to heal, doesn't it, sometimes? And I think that was the way it was with Mac. It wasn't an overnight thing.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm going to try and get emotional talking about it, but every time we would go to the vet and we would get on those scales, it was like my heart was like this, because I was like, please, just 1 more kilo, just 1 more kilo. And it was really hard. But what we did notice was the vet was saying to us, he's put on a few pounds, don't worry, it's fine. We think he's an okay weight, at least he's going up and he's not going down. So the progress was really slow in the beginning. But what we did notice was that his vomiting episodes started becoming less, and he started over time increasing the amount of food that he was eating, and he would actually eat some of the food rather than go to it and just leave it. And over time, I would probably say it did take probably about a year when we transferred over to the plant-based diet, before we were at the vet, and it was his weight his record weight last time we went was 29 kilos. And every time we went, he had put on like a significant amount of weight instead of a tiny little bit of weight. And the vet was like, what are you doing differently? And I said, well, we're on a plant-based diet that's been recommended by a vet. And he was quite quiet about it, but he didn't oppose me in any way. He was very supportive because he could see that it was working.
Yeah. So
he never said anything. And then eventually I would say to him, can we try and reduce the medication? And obviously my vet would say, well, that's our goal, is to try and get him on as little medication as we can. And that's what we've done. It's just been such a slow, gradual process with Mac. I'm not saying it's like that with every dog. With Mac, we had to take things really slowly. And now we are on, we're only on steroids every second day, and now he's the dog that's whining for his food, and he's the first to finish.
And how wonderful for you that the feeling that it must give you, knowing that he's happy again. I think at the end of the day, that's all you want, is you just don't want them to be in pain, and you want them to be happy, and just knowing that the food has done that. Oh, Linda, that's just such a lovely story.
Yeah.
I love that. Wow. And well done. Just well done with all you've done, because steroids, yes, they have their side effects, but in his instance, he obviously has such a severe sensitivity. Dogs can develop what we call an intolerance, more than an allergy, if you call it an intolerance. They can eat the same food for months and months, even for years, and then suddenly develop an intolerance to it. That is a true food intolerance. And in his instance, it obviously was to meat protein, whatever meat protein that was, whether it be, because you say you tried the chicken as well, and then he went off that. So by giving him plant-based, I mean, obviously he's getting what we call a complete novel protein source, but he's also getting just the kindest forms of protein, the gentlest forms of protein, which is where all protein comes from, which is plants, rather than the meat with all its additives that meat does have, because all meat comes from animals that are kept in small conditions. We've got the growth hormone promoters, we've got the anti-parasitic medication, we've got antibiotics that these cattle are given. Even the most organic ones will still be given medication, and so that comes through in the meat. So by choosing the plant-based, same with us. I mean, I'm speaking for our dogs, but it's exactly the same for us. By giving the purest form of everything, you're just giving him the healthiest benefits, and ourselves the healthiest benefit, but it means that he's going to live for longer. I mean, obviously in his condition is quite extreme in that he obviously has a severe meat protein intolerance, which meat protein is actually the protein that's top of the list of intolerances in dogs. Pet food companies don't make that aware. They blame grain, and actually it's never grain, it's meat, because meat is, and the byproducts of the abattoir industry are so cheap to put into meat food. So that's why it's kept quiet, that actually meat is the main source. And everything you did is exactly what other owners do. Is you look around, you listen to other people, they all say raw food is the way to go, don't trust commercial food, and then but obviously with him, there's obviously he didn't react to it as other dogs have, but equally with you being a vegan, it must have felt awful when you were feeding him a raw food, to actually have that raw meat in your home, in your fridge, in your freezer, and even just handling it and smelling it. I can't even imagine what it must have felt like. But now, by feeding him the same way as you feed him, and then it must just feel, yes, if you want to, just discuss that and let us know what that feels like.
Yeah, that is such a good question. And I do not miss the days of opening my fridge and seeing blood dripping down the inside of my fridge, because that sometimes was what happened. It was absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
And I just thought, because I just wanted to do what was best for him. So at that point, I was willing to do that because I thought that was the best thing for him. So to be able to give Mac a plant-based diet, for me, it just gives me so much joy. And, people, I guess it didn't come without a bit of suspicion from people, because they think, oh, you're just doing this because you're plant-based. But once people hear the journey behind it and they realize, actually, no, it was nothing to do with that, then they start to realize, oh yeah, okay, so you're not forcing this on your pet. You've actually realized this is the best thing for them. So once people, to get that understanding from people is really nice as well. But it's a really nice feeling. I'm not going to lie, it just brings me so much joy to know that I can do that, and how it's all worked out for me. Yeah, it's perfect.
Absolutely. And there's also the knowledge that, I mean, I know you're going to have such a close bond with Mac. We haven't even got to your second new dog, Mika, but there's just the most wonderful knowledge that every lick from him that he's going to give you is healthy and fine, because raw meat carries all its dangers as well. I mean, owners are unaware of that, but one of the main bacterial listeriosis that causes cystitis, bladder infections in humans, comes from raw meat. So actually a lick from your dog that's on a raw meat diet can harm you. And so actually at the end of the day, there's just, everything bonds you closer, doesn't it? When your dog is eating the same as you, and everything is good and right about it, that bond is strengthened. I mean, I know we can't strengthen our bonds even anymore with what we have with our dogs, but yes,
that's so true. I'd never thought about that before, but it's absolutely true. It really is.
Yeah, and the bit I'd love to sort of go back to. So he's fulfilling. I mean, you chose the wonderfully active breeds, Huskies and Shepherds. The combination with him being a Shepsky, you've chosen a beautifully active breed there with the two breeds. So you do, what is it? I don't know how to pronounce it. Bikejoring with him, which I just love. When you send me that picture of him with his harness and he pulls you, is that right?
Oh yes, he loves to pull. He loves to run. That's his thing. And that's one. Not all Shepskys, I'm sure, like to run. I'm not assuming they do, but Mac does. That's his thing. And when I discovered this, I realized that this could be something amazing. That he loved to run, and I thought, what could we do? Because he had so much energy, and I just wanted him to be happy, and I wanted to be more active. And I thought, what could we do together that he can run, I can run, and we can just have so much fun. So I looked into it and I realized people were running with their dogs. So I started with that. And I just realized then, wow, this is his thing. He was just loved it so much. And then we decided to take it a step further and do Bikejoring, which I hope I'm pronouncing that right. That's how we pronounce it in the Highlands anyway, I think. And we're in the right environment for it. We've got so many bike trails around here, and I love cycling anyway. So we got him into Bikejoring. So he pulls. We're getting better with the commands, but basically, he pulls us along, and we do bike trails, we do beaches, we do all sorts of different things, and it's just it brings him so much joy, and it's just his thing. We just love doing it.
Wonderful. Oh, and what? As I say, it just looks idyllic to be out in the open amongst the trees with your dog on a bike, and him as happy as anything, and both of you getting that dopamine drive that you both crave. But going back to him being on a plant-based diet, because he is an athlete, you're an athlete as well with all the exercise you do, but both of you being on a plant-based diet, there's so many factors that point to it being the healthiest for athletes. Have you watched Game Changers on Netflix?
Yes, I loved it.
Me too. Absolutely loved it. Yes, actually, James Wilkes grew up and lived in Melton Mowbray, which is actually where I'm based. And his dad, who appears in Game Changers, is actually, I hire my unit from him. So he's next door to me, Gary Wilkes. He's just the loveliest man. We love talking to each other because he always tells me about James, who now lives in America. But such a nice man. So I feel, even though we're next door to the Mars factory that makes all these horrendous pet foods, I've got my tiny little bit of taking my stand for the plant-based by being just next door and working with the father of what James brought to us was just incredible. The proof that actually the ancient Phoenicians were vegetarians. I mean, that's just exactly because the recovery that you get on a plant-based diet as a human athlete is so much quicker, which obviously makes sense because you're using the purest, kindest sources to repair your body. Instead of it being recycled protein from a cow, you're getting the protein straight from a plant, and you can obviously choose the healthiest forms. And I think when you become a vegan human, you look for all the healthiest forms for yourself, don't you? You don't immediately turn to becoming a junk food vegan, which you can be if you wanted, but you look for the deficiencies. So you look for and you take those supplements, and exactly the same in dogs is we look for what, as soon as we turn them to a vegan diet, we actually become nutritionists ourselves and look at what else they need, what extras they need. But it's that knowledge that if you're doing that extra athletic bit with them, that they possibly need a little bit more protein or possibly need more of. So there's so much to be said for him being such an active young dog and being on plant-based and having the energy, the pure energy from plants. Because interestingly, when I started on my whole plant-based journey, because I started from ground zero, I mean, as a GP vet, I was just a normal vet, normal mum who was feeding chicken and we eat, I mean, just normal food, never even contemplated veganism. And it was 4 years ago when I turned myself and our little dog vegan. And threw myself into it from as I say, doing every single course possible and turning to Germany for as much advice as I could get. So the very first article that I found that had such a profound impact on me is a study that was done in 2012 in Australia, where they took 16 huskies and they gave 8 of them a normal meat-based diet, and they gave 8 of them a plant-based diet. So they basically fed them soya and maize, and they put them through their paces. So these are serious working dogs, proper working dogs. They took their bloods before the experiment, and they took their bloods after the experiment, and they made them run really hard. And the blood results were exactly the same before and after the experiment. So none of them were anemic, none of them were anemic, meaning they lacked iron. The energy levels were exactly the same. They both loved the food as much. So when I read this was my very first introduction to, wow, this is possible. And actually, and it was with working dogs, and it was with huskies, which we know Mac is half husky. So actually, with working dogs, they should all be on a plant-based diet to get the maximum from them, really, which is so you've actually, what you've done on your own, I know he sort of forced you into that because of all the problems he had, and you constantly striving to find the best diet for him. You've actually, as an athlete with having that, you've put him onto the perfect diet for him, without even knowing, and yourself with all the exercise you do. No, so well done. And it is, it's all, and then yeah, so well, and then the second one I want to ask about is you then got your gorgeous Mika. So do you want to tell us about Mika's journey, where she came from, and your decisions with her?
Yeah, absolutely. So Mika, yeah, my wee girl, she is 9 months just now, and she is also a husky cross. She's crossed with a Belgian Malinois, so she likes to jump, also lots of energy. But we actually adopted her because after we got Mac, we said that we would, you know, if we did get another dog, we'd rather adopt a dog, you know, if that was possible. So when Mika came along, we just felt it was right because she had some problems. So she'd been passed around quite a bit. I think maybe the owner didn't expect her to have such high energy, and she just needed that bit of extra input, and I don't think she'd been given that. So she was given back to the owner, the breeder, and then it just so happened we knew them already, and we also saw an advert that they were looking for a home for this dog that had been returned. So we knew she was going to have some problems, but we thought we'd up for the challenge because and we just felt she could be like the perfect running partner for Mac as well, and we just thought, you know, it just felt right. So we went to meet her, and yeah, it just all happened really fast. And then she's 9 months now. We got her when she was, I think, just over nearly 5 months. I think we got her, so we've not had her that long. But I was really keen to, for all the reasons that you've just said, Ariel, all those things, and also just because of how well things were working with Mac, I had no doubt in my mind that we would transition her as soon as possible. That was probably my first question I think I asked you when I knew I was getting Mika. I was asking you, how can we transition? I need to get her onto a plant-based diet as soon as possible. But when she came to us, she was on a diet that was full of additives, and I'm thinking that might not have helped with her behaviour as well, just the fact that she was on quite quite a processed food that was quite a cheap food and had been known to have lots of additives in it. So we were thinking that could help with our training as well. So we did see her settle down once she was off that food. We did see her behaviour settling down quite a bit. So that was the first good thing. But also we just saw her get her shine back, and just the same kind of shine that Mac has, you know, that just that shiny toe and just that healthy look, you know, that doesn't smell of dog food anymore, and just that real fresh kind of smell that you get from dogs that are on a plant-based diet. And just seeing her transitioning from this little puppy that had all these problems and just eating this not very good food into this amazing dog now that we would say her behaviour is really good. She's looking healthy, she's eating really well, and she's a perfect weight, and she's got no problems. So we're just in a really good place with Mega right now, really happy. She's transitioned really well.
Oh gosh, like also just music to my ears. Well done. Because taking on a Malinois on its own, or a Malinois cross, they're working dogs. They're the dogs that the police normally use because they're extremely bright, but they just want to work. They're like German Shepherds. That is their role. They're desperate in any capacity, whether it's for protection or for sniffing, and to have them in a family environment and have them moved around, you're going to end up with issues. So gosh, you've been fantastic. First to take her on, and then to have the patience to really sort out the problems. But definitely a plant-based diet definitely also helps with behavioral concerns. So just remind me, I know definitely they're both having Greta now as well, aren't they? They're having the Greta. And are you home cooking as well for Mika and Mac, or is it just the Greta that they're having?
They're just having the mini Greta, so that's Mac's menu of choice. We've tried different things, and Mac has told us mini Greta is what I want, so we're going with that.
He likes it the best. Wonderful, good. And yes.
The pumpkin casserole because he loves pumpkin, so we're using the pumpkin casserole. Yeah.
Perfect, because because with the supplements that I've got, and actually with Greta as well that they're having, and lots of the plant-based ingredients, they're very high in an amino acid. Well, my supplement certainly is, but Greta will have it added in as well. There's an amino acid called tryptophan that actually is the calming amino acid. It's sort of the precursor to dopamine and serotonin in the body. It makes you feel calmer. So definitely, actually, and then there's so many plants that we can eat, and people who are plant-based are generally calmer and milder mannered than real carnivorous people, aren't they? And the same goes with dogs, actually. It definitely has a behavioral change. In fact, there is a behaviorist in Scotland who only uses plant-based diets to actually control the behavior of dogs. I do need to interview her, but that would definitely, so your decision, without you knowing again, Linda, you've made the perfect decision for Mika now, with obviously her being an athlete as well. She's going to be having the same fantastic lifestyle that Mac has, and this love of being out and running and being out and open, but actually for her to calm her, to make her feel less anxious having been in a new environment, but equally with the breeds that are in her that are quite an anxious breed. The food that she's having without you knowing is just perfect. So all I can say is I just commend you, Linda. You've done everything right. Oh, it must have been so hard. I could hear that emotion. I could see it in your face when you spoke about those early days with Mac. But you stuck your ground, and you were fantastic. You did everything right with what you believed in, and you've got the results. So yeah. Oh, thank you.
It's so nice just to sum it up like that, because you're right, it has been a really hard time and a tough time. But I have to say a real turning point was just to get that support that we've had from you, because we were kind of going out on a limb before we met you, and just kind of clutching at straws, and just, but when we met you, just to have that that support, it was invaluable to us, because it just gives you that stamp, that stamp that says, yeah, you're doing the right thing, from somebody that's, you know, from a vet, which is I think a lot of people probably are looking for, isn't it? They're looking for a vet to be able to turn around to them and say, yeah, that's a good idea. So for us, it was just amazing to have that, and it just took a lot of the anxiety away from us as well, a lot of the pressure that it was all on our shoulders making these decisions for, you know, for Mac. But just to have that support. So thank you, Ariel, for just what you're doing as well, because it made the biggest difference to us. And like getting Nika as well, having a puppy going plant-based, we wouldn't have had a clue where to start with that. So thank you.
Yes, no, absolute pleasure. Oh, an absolute